Welcome to the Platform Engineering Playbook podcast, where everything you hear is built, reviewed, and improved by AI, by me, and by you, the listener. This show keeps me, and hopefully you, up to speed on the latest in platform engineering, SRE, DevOps, and production engineering. It's a living experiment in how AI can help us track, explain, and discuss the fast-moving world of infrastructure. Every episode is open source. If you've got something to add, correct, or challenge, head to platform-engineering-playbook.com. You'll find all the content and a link to the GitHub repo. Open a pull request, join the conversation, and make the playbook smarter. Let's get into it.
The Cloud Native Community Foundation turns 10 years old, 300,000 contributors, 230-plus projects, 190 countries represented, the second largest open-source project on Earth. But between the keynote celebrations and the expo hall demos, the hallway track told a different story. In the breakout sessions and the Day Zero events, we heard something the headlines missed.
That's the tension in this episode. Part 3 of our KubeCon Atlanta series. We've covered the technical breakthroughs in Part 1, DRA going GA, rollback finally working, the organizational consensus in Part 2, platform engineering's 3 principles. Today, we're asking the question nobody wants to answer. Can the people building this actually sustain the pace? And what did we learn in the technical sessions that didn't make the keynote stage?
Let's start with the numbers that define sustainability. 60% of open source maintainers are unpaid for their work, according to the 2024 Tidelift State of the Open Source Maintainer Report.
60% unpaid for software that 96% of companies depend on. That asymmetry is the heart of the sustainability crisis.
Another 60% of maintainers have either left or considered leaving a project. The reasons aren't about code. Competing life demands, 54%, loss of interest, 51%, burnout, 44%.
And then there's the XZ Utils incident from 2024.
A seemingly helpful contributor exploited a solo maintainer's isolation over years, slowly gained trust, eventually inserted a malicious backdoor into widely used software that could have compromised millions of systems. The fallout? 66% drop in maintainer trust toward new contributors.
So now we have burned out maintainers who are also suspicious of new help. That's a death spiral.
Which is why at KubeCon, we saw the human cost up close. Hans Samuel Kang, 42 years old, longtime contributor to Kubernetes SIG-Node and kubelet. He passed away unexpectedly in September 2025.
I saw the tribute. Self-taught engineer, philosophy degree from UC Berkeley, 2 daughters.
He graduated high school at 16, enlisted in the Army at 17, found his way into tech as a self-taught programmer. Colleagues described his energy and enthusiasm. One said, quote, "He stood out even in a company of exceptional people."
J.G. McLeod from Google mentioned him during the rollback announcement.
Said, quote, "This has taken literally a decade of effort. Han Kang's passing really hurts. This is a lasting legacy. The rollback feature that finally works after 10 years, the one we covered in Part 1, has his fingerprints on it."
The technology doesn't exist without the people.
And the people showed up not just in keynotes, but in the breakout sessions. Let's talk about what we learned in the rooms.
Starting with CiliumCon, the Day Zero event.
TikTok presented their IPv6-only migration to Cilium. They shared specific challenges around scale. Running eBPF-based networking at TikTok's traffic volumes means debugging issues that nobody else has seen. They talked about rolling out Cilium incrementally, cluster by cluster, with automated canary deployments to catch regressions before they propagate.
And Cilium itself hit its 10-year anniversary.
Isovalent engineers talked about clusters now exceeding 60,000 nodes running Cilium. The eBPF evolution from experimental to production default took a decade. Same timeline as Kubernetes reaching maturity. Same lesson. Infrastructure at this scale takes years, not months.
What about security sessions?
Supply chain security had its own track. The supply chain reaction presentation walked through attack vectors that go beyond just compromised dependencies. build system compromises, CI pipeline injection, artifact registry poisoning. The XZ Utils pattern was explicitly referenced as the canonical example of social engineering meeting technical exploitation.
And in-toto graduated.
CNCF Supply Chain Provenance Project hit graduated status. It's now production ready for generating cryptographically signed attestations about your entire build pipeline. Who built what, when, with which tools, from which sources. Combined with SBOM generation, you can now trace a container image back to its original commit and build environment.
That connects to the EU Cyber Resilience Act requirements we discussed in Part 2.
Exactly. SBOM plus in-toto attestations equals CRA compliance by 2027. The tooling exists now.
What about gateway API sessions?
HA Proxy presented their unified gateway implementation. The pattern is converging. Instead of separate ingress controllers and API gateways and meshes, a single gateway handling north-south and east-west traffic with Gateway API as the common interface.
And there was AI-specific gateway work.
K-Gateway showed an AI inference extension that adds routing semantics specific to LLM workloads. Token-based rate limiting, model version routing, request queuing for batch inference. The Gateway API extensibility model lets you add these without forking the core specification.
Observability Day had significant announcements too.
OpenTelemetry's eBPF instrumentation is maturing. We covered this in episode 28. The KubeCon session showed production deployments where teams get complete distributed tracing without changing a single line of application code. The catch, we mentioned TLS encryption breaking eBPF visibility, has workarounds now using shared library interception.
Nike presented their OPEMP implementation.
OpenTelemetry's agent management protocol. Nike is using it to manage thousands of collectors across their infrastructure. Central configuration, remote updates, health monitoring. The scale challenges are real. When you have that many agents, the management plane itself becomes a distributed systems problem.
So the technical sessions showed real production implementations, not just demos.
Which is the difference between KubeCon 2020 and KubeCon 2025. 5 years ago, these sessions were, here's what we're trying. Now they're, here's what we learned running this for 3 years at scale.
Let's shift back to sustainability. What signs of hope emerged?
The Open Source Pledge Initiative. Companies commit to paying maintainers directly. Minimum $2,000 per year per developer at your company. Cash payments, not cloud credits, not hiring developers to work on open source, not gifts. Cash to the people doing the work.
Who's actually participating?
Antithesis contributed $110,000. That's $2,895 per developer on staff. $95,000 went to the Nix core team alone. Convex put $100,000 toward TanStack's start. That's $7,692 per developer. These are real numbers, not symbolic gestures.
And Kubernetes itself made governance improvements.
The release team went from 6 subteams to 4. Bug triage and CI signal merged into release signal. Project boards for enhancement tracking. The change got unanimous applause from release team members because it reduced coordination overhead.
So what's the survival strategy for maintainers?
Kat Cosgrove, newly elected to the Kubernetes Steering Committee, was brutally honest about this. She described lying to coworkers and friends at long conferences, to steal alone time at restaurants with a book, not working at all in December, spending time in the mountains without cell signal or electronics.
Wait, she framed those as survival strategies?
Quote, when you're an open source maintainer and developer advocate, you don't get to have a bad day in public. These aren't nice to haves. They're how you avoid complete burnout. And most maintainers are, quote, crispy, her word. They're all burned out. The trick is not letting people see it.
Public persona always on, even when you're exhausted.
Which is why the advice for maintainers is build contributor ladders. Promote contributors into leadership to share the workload. Take real time off. Be honest about burnout instead of hiding it. And build succession pipelines. The worst outcome is a critical project with no one ready to take over.
Red flags to watch for.
Solo maintainer on a critical project. That's the XZ Utils pattern waiting to happen. No corporate backing for dedicated time, missing contributor ladder, all contributors from a single company, maintainers visibly exhausted on social media. These are warning signs of unsustainable projects that could affect your infrastructure.
Let's bring it back to the series. What's the complete picture of KubeCon Atlanta 2025?
Part 1 was technical capability. DRA when GA, 10 to 40% GPU performance improvement by fixing NUMA alignment. OpenAI freed 30,000 CPU cores with one line of code. Kubernetes rollback finally works after 10 years. The message, the technology is mature and still accelerating.
Part 2 was organizational clarity.
Platform engineering consensus after years of definitional chaos. 3 principles: API first self-service, business relevance, managed service approach. Real adoption at Intuit, Bloomberg, ByteDance scale. The puppy for Christmas anti-pattern explains why templates without operational support fail. The message, we know what to build and how to measure success.
And part 3?
Is the sustainability question. 60% maintainers unpaid. 60% have left or considered leaving. Hong Kong's passing reminds us of the human cost. The technical session showed what 10 years of community investment looks like. Cilium at 60,000 nodes. In-toto graduated. Gateway API converging. Open source pledge provides a funding path. The message, now invest in the humans who make all of this possible.
So what's the framework for listeners?
3 actions. First, check if your company is on the open source pledge. $2,000 per developer per year minimum. If not, start that conversation with leadership. Second, audit your critical dependencies for maintainer health. How many maintainers? Are they employed to do this work? When did they last take time off? Is there a succession plan?
And third?
Remember the through line of this series. Hong Kong's legacy lives in Kubernetes reliability. The Cilium engineers spent 10 years getting eBPF to production default. The in-toto maintainers got supply chain attestation to graduated status. These aren't anonymous contributors. They're people who chose to spend their lives on this. They deserve sustainability, predictable income, reasonable workloads, time off without guilt, succession plans so they can step back when needed.
That's the real work for the next decade.
The code doesn't exist without the people who write it. The technical session showed what sustained community investment creates. The burnout statistics show what happens without it. Invest accordingly.
This has been part 3 of our 3-part KubeCon Atlanta 2025 series. Part 1 covered the technical breakthroughs. Part 2, platform engineering consensus. Part 3, the sustainability question and what we learned in the breakout rooms. Together, a complete picture of where cloud native is and where it's going.
Until next time.
That's it for this episode of the Platform Engineering Playbook podcast. Every topic, transcript, and summary you just heard lives out in the open at platform-engineering-playbook.com, where anyone can suggest updates or add insights through GitHub. If you've got thoughts, fixes, or new ideas, open a PR. And if you enjoyed the episode, rate us on your favorite podcast platform. We're always shooting for 5 stars. While you're there, give the project a star on GitHub. It helps others find and contribute to the Platform Engineering Playbook. This podcast is generated by AI, reviewed by AI, me and you, a community of engineers keeping our craft sharp. Thanks for listening, and see you next time inside the Platform Engineering Playbook.